Welcome to another fun, exciting episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall,
and I'm Bryce Runge.
Bryce, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
You sure?
I'm doing all right. I'm here, aren't I?
Well, there's worse places to be.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
How's life been treating you?
It's been. I shouldn't be on here complaining.
But
this is a no complaining zone. But yeah, it's been stressful around here. So we just had Suzanne's mother's service Monday, actually.
That's right. She passed away here.
She passed away on the 8th. But it was a long, drawn out, sad situation. 3 years. She had dementia. And, it's just as Suzanne cared for her and her parent, her and her dad, I guess over time it just builds and builds and builds, and you're trying to hold down the fort, and you've got two little kids, and then you got a 12-year-old, and here I am again. I'm rambling I could keep going. The moral of the story is that stress has built and built and built. And, there's been, as we've all gone through the grief, and still some are grieving in their different ways. In fact, we just talked about that.
Right.
And so, which I'm very grateful that we know this information so we could identify when someone's going through something.
Sure.
But yeah, it has been like in the last couple of weeks, it's like stress at all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
I even got sick. I'm fairly convinced that stress had played a role for sure. But yeah, it has been pretty stressful, to be honest with you.
Life is stressful by its very nature. I think by the speed at which life moves influences that. We're into the holiday season.
Oh yeah,
and that's a lot of family time, and it's both a blessing and sometimes a curse. But no, I'm with you. There are a lot of things that can be very stressful, and I'm glad you brought that up because I've been doing a little bit of investigation. I don't want to say research because that sends a different message, but I've been kind of looking into some of the things of stress, and I ran across this very interesting, looking in a dictionary. Webster says that actually stress is a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension and may be a factor in disease causation. You got sick. It wears you down.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of an interesting definition. I found another one, though, that I really kind of hit more home with me. It says, this came from mentalhealth.org, that stress is the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure.
Yeah.
Now that's how I feel. I'm going, holy crap, I don't know that I can deal with stuff.
Yeah. I did a pretty good job. We, not me, we, as in my partner, my bride, we've, we work very well together because we understand it's a partnership, right? There have been times where I didn't want to do things, because I was being self-centered at that moment. But the majority of the time it was, how can I serve you? How can I help you in this situation? Because I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I kind of feel it because,
Sure.
I forgot where I was going. Honestly, joking aside, I think that just the past 3 years and the stress and the anxiety and all the things that we have going on, I'm fairly convinced not only has it jacked with, us physically, like you just mentioned, right? But mentally as well, obviously. But like, I kind of feel like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Like, it's not I don't want to say a cognitive decline. But sometimes I feel like, wow, like I can't even get the words out. Like I feel like I can't articulate clearly.
Sure.
But I'm convinced that all has played a role in it. So
I think for me anyway, stress can be very distracting. And I sometimes find that when I sometimes try to avoid it.
Yeah.
And that I wonder sometimes if by avoiding it, it makes it even worse. I mean, at the end of the day, we can define it any way you want. You can call it whatever you wish. But I mean, a lot of times stress can, I don't know how to say this. Wow, maybe I'm stressed out because I can't articulate very well either. But at the end of the day, a lot of times I think it comes down to our interpretation of something that has happened, something that is said, and our internalization of whatever that event was leads then to stress, questioning, oh my gosh, did I say this wrong? Oh my gosh, well, did I piss him off? Oh my gosh, did I just ruin that opportunity?
Right.
And as a consequence, it just kind of builds, and that stress of, well, what should I do? How should I deal with this?
Right.
And I don't know. I think that that's something that so many of us, well, at least me and the folks I run into, they deal, you have a lot of stress. I mean, you got work stress and you got home stress and you got, there's just natural amount of stress that's going to be there. But sometimes it can just build and build and build to kind of like that house of cards until it ultimately, falls over.
Well, and that's, it's something that we've talked about also in the past. I think maybe in our last episode. I'm not sure. I can't see. There you go. I can't remember.
Could be old age and not stress.
Dang. Taking care of yourself. Right.
Yes.
Applying self-care methods or practices, if you will. I mean, that's just so crucial.
Well, I mean, sometimes it can be good for you. Yeah. Sometimes stress can bring out okay, you've done some motivational speaking. I've done some, I don't know if I call it motivational, but I've done some speaking for my book as well. And that nervousness can motivate you to do really well.
Right.
When you were playing football, same kind of thing, that stress of, I don't want to screw up. So you work extra hard and you prepare real well.
Right.
But I think when I think of stress, though, I think of more of that chronic stress. When I was married the first time, that was a chronic stressful situation where there was so much conflict. There was so much tension that I didn't know. I felt like I had to walk on eggshells a lot.
Yeah. Not a good environment.
I didn't think so. But it contributed to a lot of physical problems, manifestations, issues with, like, I didn't sleep very well. For me, I turned to eating and I ate a lot, way more than I probably should have. Some people talk, they turn to alcohol,
right?
Or maybe that's where they turn to pills.
Yep.
And so, I mean, and then of course that gets to create, then a whole nother set of problems, which rather than relieving stress,
you're adding.
Yeah. Because that saying, if, you get let's say you're drinking or you're, engaged in drugs. Well, now you run afoul of the law.
Right.
Now you got legal issues on top of that.
To your temporary fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know. I think that it is something that we all deal with, but I don't know that we deal with it always very well.
Right.
And I mean, I guess that's why I'm glad you brought up stress, because I think that it is something that we all face.
Right.
And I think that one of the issues I keep, it doesn't matter your age.
Oh no, nobody's off limits.
No, and I remember thinking of some of my students as they comment about all the stress in their lives, and I'm going, oh my God, would you please? If I only had that little bit of stress. But for them, it is a vast amount.
Oh yeah.
And so even as parents dealing with our children going, well, what are you worried about? That's nothing. Let me tell you about something. Here, sit down and I'll burden you with all the crap. It's kind of like it's not a competition. No. But we all have stress, and
to them, it's huge.
Absolutely.
To them, yeah. So, going back to having the conversation, much like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Having the conversation about stress. It's a very real thing. It's everyone encounters stress. Even us having this conversation, I know that when we're done, I'm going to feel somewhat better.
Oh,
I'm probably going to feel. I'm going to feel a lot better, actually.
Yeah,
because you're just such a good listener, Rod.
Well, thank you. It's practice for for being a professional counselor.
Hey,
and it won't be long, and I can now charge you for it.
Oh, wow.
I shouldn't say that. That's so far in the future. It's not even worth mentioning.
Yeah. Well, hey.
But I can practice charging you.
You could practice all you want.
Well,
no.
And part of my investigation of this, I looked up some stuff from the APA, the American Psychological Association, and they were saying that stress is normal, and it's a normal reaction to everyday pressures, but it becomes unhealthy when it interferes or upsets our day-to-day functioning, that it becomes a driving force. And I ran across some statistics. Can I share some of this?
I guess so.
Okay.
Yes, please do.
Well, I find it very fascinating.
Sure.
And that's why it struck a chord with me. But it was saying that nearly half of parents, all right, so 50% of moms and dads, say that the level of stress in their life has increased compared with before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So basically that the pandemic has increased their stress level.
Right.
That was especially true for parents who said that their kids were at home remote learning. And I got to say that, I think moms and dads really began to appreciate the idea of sending their kids to school.
Oh, yeah, they appreciated teachers a lot more.
Well, if they did, it was short-lived. But yes, the idea of trying to work at home, you're working your job, and you're trying to help your kid. Let's say, that they're 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. Well, you can't just say, well, log onto the computer and we'll check back in a couple of hours.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. No. So, you're trying to teach the kid how to do the online stuff. Then you're trying to help them do the actual school work. And you're got your boss going, you need to work, you need to work, you need to work. And then it's kind of like, well, what about the laundry? Well, then what about the meals? Well, Mommy, I'm hungry, or Daddy, I'm hungry. And then you get the spouses, they're stressed and you're cooped up in the house and all your normal day-to-day activities. You can't watch TV because guess what? They canceled TV shows. Can't watch sports because they were canceling sports shows. And so now how do you deal with all that stress?
You actually go back to how families used to operate, sit down at a dinner table, have a conversation, play a game on, cardboard, like Monopoly or something.
Well, I'm going to be, what's sad though, is that
or Magic the Gathering, like Rod plays.
Yes, absolutely. What actually happened, well, no, I shouldn't say actually happened. What tended to happen was not that families bonded more together, but my friends who are in the divorce profession said that they have been busier over the last 16 months than they have been in a very, very long time.
Right.
Because what ultimately happened was that stress blew up.
Yeah.
And
pitted each other against, yeah.
Some of the other stuff. And again, that scared me when I was reading that and, kind of started applying stuff. But then they were saying some more. 61% of adults reported experiencing undesired weight changes since the start of the pandemic. The COVID-19 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, now, luckily for me, I got the COVID and I actually lost 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And I've been able to keep it off. I don't know how, but
discipline. That's discipline right there,
well,
Rod.
that or the Peloton or just shrunk stomach. But anyway, they go on to say that 2 in 3 Americans, again, this is all with the pandemic, just the stress of the COVID-19 and our reactions to it. 2 in 3 Americans say that they are sleeping more or less than they wanted to since the pandemic started. Again, stress related because that stress can lead to depression.
Yeah.
And I know from personal experience when I was feeling depressed, I didn't want to get out of bed. So you lay in bed, you kind of ignore a lot of things. You kind of bury your head and you sleep.
Yeah.
And then what was even more telling was this final piece of information where they said that nearly half of Americans say that they delayed or canceled healthcare services since the start of the pandemic.
Wow.
And at a time where I kept up seeing my counselor through COVID. I don't know. Well, I hope she didn't get too upset with me, but my little sister saw her counselor through the internet. Mm-hmm. And I know my counselor, she saw people through the internet or in person when I would go in person because I didn't like the internet stuff.
Yeah.
But we were both wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And we were able to maintain, and I was glad. I needed to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But again, I had the benefit of some prior knowledge, but I think you're right. It's easy to forget to take care of yourself.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, and the other thing too is like our situation isn't like everyone else's. Like there was times where it was stressful, but Suzanne working from home, pretty flexible. I mean, when you work in corporate, I mean, especially the software industry, they operate a lot differently.
Yeah.
And so they're extreme, they're very flexible. They understand, they get it. And not that other companies and organizations don't, but my point is like, and then we were off.
Yeah.
Like our situation was very different, even though we were virtual. Mm-hmm. It provided more bandwidth on my end to help with the kids.
Sure.
And like Briar and I were going, like we were up to like 4 walks a day, and I was on the treadmill. That's when I started my treadmill talks.
Oh yes.
And I'm like,
can we still find those on YouTube?
They are still on YouTube.
Okay.
I thought about bringing those back, but the treadmill hasn't seen anyone in quite a while.
Okay.
Because I was doing really good. I was working. So again, every situation you see starts with a thought. A lot of people reacted. I responded. I'm going to find the positive here. Mm-hmm. Again, every situation is different, right? I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just, thank you. I'm like, how could we make this the best opportunity? Mm-hmm. I'm going to respond with being grateful.
Okay.
I'm going to respond by, okay, let's find the positives. I'm probably taking us off on a little tangent here, but again, taking care of myself. How can we do self-care? How can we practice self-care? Because the situation does suck. That's the reality of it. Uh-huh. Like I had to mask up and wear gloves and go do the groceries and all that. And I hate to take us back to 2020, but that's the reality. We had to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that rise in anxiety and that rise in stress and depression.
Well, and we're still dealing with it because, you got the mask or you got the vaccine. And should you wear a mask or not? Should you get the vaccine or not? The stress all behind that. I mean, it seems like
turn the TV on. You start getting anxiety and stress.
Amen.
Rises. It's
Well, I don't know how many people turn on the TV, but I sure know that a lot of people turn on their cell phone and they tweet, they read what's on Facebook, they read on, whatever their news source is, or TikTok or Instagram and all that. And actually that has been proven time and again to generate more stress than alleviates.
Yeah.
And even my students have started to comment and recognize that too much screen time can be a negative.
Right.
To the point where I, as a teacher, I'm starting to think, well, maybe I need to go back a little bit to some old school ways. Instead of being 100% digital, maybe I should be maybe 80% digital and start doing some pen and paper stuff.
Break it up.
And
do the kids know how to write still?
I'm beginning to wonder. But, here's the thing. And I read an article from Psychology Today about anxiety. And there is a little bit of difference between stress and anxiety. It's a fine line. There's not much. Because both of them deal with emotional responses. But usually, here's the kicker, stress usually has some kind of external trigger. Where anxiety just builds. The stress will respond in something happens, and it is there's your trigger, there's your blow, your Mount Vesuvius exploding up. It can be a work deadline, it can be a fight with a family member, a loved one, a coworker, a classmate, but that is the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Okay.
So that's the stress kind of thing. Other things, again, people under stress, I'm going to put myself out there and say, yes, I'm one of these. You experience that mental and physical symptoms, and this is it. This is me. You've ridden with me. You and I have known each other a long time, so you can testify this. But irritability, anger, fatigue, muscle pain, digestive troubles, difficulty sleeping. These are just some of the symptoms that people with stress are going to. There's these physical manifestations.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? I could throw my name in that.
Because
pot too, because I've gone through everything you just listed.
I find that when we were meeting today, I gave myself plenty of time. And I made a pit stop over to Quick Trip so that I could get me a drink, get you your Diet Coke.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You were early.
I was early. And I got to tell you, the drive here was very stress-free.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, there were still a bunch of people out on the road that I'm sure in a normal situation would have irritated me. But
you weren't in a hurry.
No.
You just cruising.
Yeah. But if on a normal school day, I would have had a lot of that irritability. I got to say that the stress of the school year, I'm not sleeping as well.
Yeah.
And so it's I need to exercise more.
Yeah.
I'm
right there with you.
I haven't been riding that Peloton like I should have, but here's the thing. Anxiety is defined as a persistent, excessive worry that doesn't go away, even in the absence of a stressor. Anxiety leads to pretty much the same kind of symptoms of stress, such as insomnia, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, muscle tensions, and irritability. So again, they're very much related.
Right.
But stress is a short-term temporary, where anxiety is kind of a long-lasting issue.
Okay.
For example, marriage or relationship issues. There's a lot of anxiety in that because of incompatibility over time, but then the stress is the one thing, the trigger that blows up, that leads to the yelling, the screaming, the throwing of stuff. At least that's how I understand it.
Okay.
And so again, they're very similar, but stress is that trigger thing, the straw that broke the camel back, so to speak.
So what are, now that you've identified the two, which is really good, and it makes total sense to me. Yeah, just experience. I'm just kind of reflecting really quick on the past 3 years. I mean, like, I could see all that. Like, oh my gosh. But what are some, now that we've identified, man, there's something wrong with me. Like, maybe I didn't sleep well last night.
Well, let's see. Do you want to lay down on the couch over there?
Is this one of your? Well, I don't have money to pay you today, Rob.
All right, fine.
No, but seriously, yeah, it's been a stressful weekend. I'm going to stop using that as an excuse, but it is a reality. We're moving forward. What are some healthy ways to deal with stress? Because if you could download, unpack this for us. Because I'm going to press in and I'm going to listen because I'm going to apply some of these effectively immediately.
Okay.
You're giving us healthy tips, right? Healthy ways to deal with stress.
All right. Well, some of them are common sense, I think.
Well, common sense waved bye-bye to a lot of people a long time ago, so you're going to need to really break this down.
All right.
Unpack it.
Okay. Well, for one, it's having some kind of social network, some kind of somebody to talk to, group of people to talk to. And like when I get kind of wigged out, I'll call you. Or, depending on the issue, I'll complain at school to coworkers. And sometimes I'll, complain to the wife. Mm-hmm. And so Sherry will help me out. They're just different groups of folks that I have that when I'm feeling stressed, so that I don't have that explosion, right, that trigger of, where you wind up saying something that you wish you hadn't, saying that one thing that you don't really mean it. Back. Well, yeah, because you say it because you want to hurt the person, not because you actually mean it.
Right.
So before you get into that situation, having someone to talk to, again, that's why I go see my counselor.
Yeah.
I've been seeing her since February of 2011. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So and it's been beneficial having someone to visit with, to talk to let you vent, especially vent without judging. Because I know that too many times when you vent, sometimes that person, all they hear is all the negatives. They never really get to hear, the positives. Oh, well, the person's not really that much of a son of a biscuit. But when all you say is all these horrible things, well, they've got to be that non-judgmental.
Right.
So that kind of helps. Again, cultivating some kind of social support system that helps you avoid that stuff that you say or do that you can't take back. Mm-hmm. Trying to tell a judge when you're in front of him, well, it was all these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to go, and you drove drunk because...
Oh, right.
Well, sorry, DUI, strike one,
Yeah.
So, cultivating some kind of social support network. Yeah. I probably would say don't go on Facebook and don't rant on Facebook so much. Mm-hmm. That being said, I've been known to do that. So I guess I better change. Something else that I thought was very interesting when I was looking into this was our diet. That, sometimes when I get really stressed, I eat.
Stress eat.
Yeah. And I go for comfort food. Nah, not always ice cream, not always, like candy. That doesn't do it for me so much, but I'll whip up a big old batch of homemade taco salad. And I think I've made my taco salad for you before.
Yes.
Most everybody really
good.
likes it. Well, it's a batch built for a family of 4, 5, 6 people. Well, I'll sit there and eat the whole dang thing.
Right.
And I might when I was feeling really, really, really out of it, especially after Eric died and all of that, I'd make that for lunch, and I'd just sit and eat that whole thing all day.
Yeah.
And by the time I go to bed, I'm going, dang, I ate the whole thing. Well, okay. And I mean, I would stress eat.
Yeah.
And I worried about all kinds of stuff. And I put on, I don't know, 35, 40 pounds. I mean, when the divorce began to when I started working at the school with you, I think I put on about 60 pounds. And that was all because of stress eating.
Yeah.
So the point I'm getting at is eat more. Instead of eating junk food, instead of going to McDonald's, instead of going to Burger King or Taco Bell, eat real food. Make a real meal. Throw in vegetables and eat that. I forget. The food pyramid, I guess.
Yeah.
The fruits and the vegetables and all that kind of stuff. So having a healthy diet actually helps regulate your mood.
Right. But while you are 1,000% correct, how do you just drive by, let's just say McDonald's?
Okay.
Right? How do you just drive by McDonald's knowing that you don't want to cook?
Okay.
You don't want to put the effort in to eat the way you just suggested, which is extremely beneficial, especially in that low point of life, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's McDonald's, and it's convenient, and it's right there, and it costs $1.50, and it tastes good for a second. Mm-hmm. But like, how do you get over that? Like, how do you just continue driving? Like, how do you muster up the energy? Because I've been there. Mm-hmm. Like, first of all, I don't even want to go home at this point. Not my current home. This is
in the pre-life.
Yes, pre-life.
Marriage 1.0.
Yes. Like, didn't want to go home, or even after divorce. Didn't want to go to the apartment. Didn't want to cook. But there's Whataburger. Mm-hmm. Or there's, you name it, fill in the blank. There's convenience on the corner. I know I should be eating better, but that convenience on the corner, and it's right there. I'm gonna pull in. I'm gonna pull in right here. I'm gonna pull in. Okay, can I make it the large too? Can I make it the large?
Sure.
Okay. So that's what
you want a hot apple pie with that.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what? McDonald's doesn't even ask that anymore.
They probably don't have apple pies, Rod.
Oh,
that's from like the 80s, dude.
Okay.
Anyways, the moral of my question there is, how do you combat that? How do you just drive by? How do you? I know that there's discipline involved, but like when you're just that low and you're that down, like.
Well, I'm wondering. Okay, here's the thing. It's not that you can't stop. Mm-hmm. It's that you don't stop there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day.
Okay.
You want to do it once a day? Okay. But know that that's going to be contributing to your problem. If you're there 3 times a day, then that's contributing even more to your problem.
Right.
It's like I keep being told, it's not that don't cut out things from your life. Limit them. Mm-hmm. Do it as a reward and make it something less, how shall we say, less of a habit.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go, okay, you know what? I have cooked for I ate breakfast before I left the house, and I packed my lunch, and I have cooked meals for 3 days in a row. You know what? Okay, on my way home, I'm going to stop by Whataburger and get me a number 2 with cheese and make it a large. But you know what? Instead of Diet Coke, I'm going to have unsweet iced tea today.
Oh. Because that makes it all that much better.
Well, sure.
Number 2 is a double cheeseburger with everything on it, large fries, and it's not a small burger either. It probably weighs 4 pounds. But anyways.
Hey, and I don't know that from personal experience. But again, it's not that you avoid it, it's that you don't do it all the time. And throw in the fact that, okay, you go to Whataburger and boom, there's $10.
Yeah.
Even at the dollar menu, the dollar, well, the only thing that's $1 now at McDonald's is their large drinks.
Yeah.
Everything else is way more, but still, you can get you, a hamburger and fries and a drink for $5 or less.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's easy. But even then, that adds up, and pretty soon, then you got the economic issue of.
I was just about to say, if you're experiencing economic difficulties, and you're eating out like that, now it's a double whammy. Mm-hmm. I know for me, I went exactly through that. Like, I didn't have the money, so why are you going through here? You're going to do it, so you're going to get some change, pull some change. Okay, all right, that's as low as we're going. No, but and then you slam that food, and now you're broker, and you feel worse because you just ate. Mm-hmm. And but I like the fact that you go ahead and partake in some of that, but limit it.
Yeah. Again, these are things that I've had to do myself.
Right.
Because it is super easy to pull in to the drive-thru on the way home. I mean, crying out loud. I got multiple restaurants between school and the house and the school. And I always tell myself, well, don't cross traffic to go. If they're on the right-hand side and you can pull in and then pull right back out, okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Economically, it's gotten to the point where I like having money in my bank account when we get paid.
Right.
And I'm not talking 50 cents in the bank account. I'm talking, a couple $100. Because it's kind of like, ooh. And it's all because, I eat healthier. And I feel better. The other thing is...
Sorry, I took us off there.
No. You did fine. That was actually good.
Thank you.
Exercise. Mm-hmm. Get exercise. You and I have talked about this so many times. Not just so much on the podcast, but you and I have just talked about this multiple times of exercising. And exercising helps relieve stress. It helps create positive chemical reactions within the body. Mm-hmm. And it helps you work off that double cheeseburger from Whataburger, so that way, you're. I know for me, when I was really, really frustrated and stressed, back in the old life, married to she who shall not be named, I would take the dogs, put them on a leash, and we would go for a walk.
Yeah.
And I mean, we go for a 30, 45-minute walk. It's just so that I could just unload. Mm-hmm. I would yell, I would scream, but I'm walking and I'm exercising. Now, with the Peloton, I'll get on and I'll ride the Peloton, and that helps me work through it. I think you have talked, and you'll get on the treadmill. Mm-hmm. In fact, you were saying a little while ago, how during COVID you would get on the treadmill.
Right.
And even if you weren't doing the, your YouTube stuff, you're walking that out.
Right.
And by doing so, that exercise helps kind of calm, or at least does me anyway, helps calm me down to the point that I can deal with whatever's going on a little bit more successfully.
Right.
So exercise
brings the blood pressure down.
Yeah, and Lord knows I need my blood pressure down. So the couple other things, do things that make you happy, pleasurable activities. You were joking about me playing Magic the Gathering, but sometimes that's exactly what I need. Mm-hmm. I need to go have a distraction, do something fun that's entertaining, and voila, off you go.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's going to a movie, maybe it's going out with friends, but do something that is enjoyable.
Yeah.
So pleasurable activities. And the last one, I don't know why it keeps, I don't know, get professional help. Find a counselor, find a therapist, and talk to them. I'm not sure why that is still a stigma. Why folks are afraid, well, I can handle it myself. Well, okay, you can handle it yourself until you can't handle it.
Yep.
And by the time you realize you can't handle it, well, you're either in divorce court or you're behind bars or some other horrible thing has happened because you allowed, as my granddaddy would always say, your alligator mouth to override your canary tail end. And so, again, get help before you do that thing that you just can't walk back.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. I appreciate that, and I know it's really good information. Well, we're cutting it a little close today, and I know you have some more. I don't think we're quite done with this because it's a topic that I know we have some more to talk about.
Okay.
And so, we're already at 40 minutes.
Holy cow. Okay.
So if you don't mind, can we cut this up in 2 parts?
Absolutely.
We'll pick it up tomorrow or whatever, and
For next episode.
Our next episode.
Okay.
But I do want our listeners to get into their place of employment and wherever they're going. Typically, you listen to this in the morning, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's pick this up again.
Okay.
I think it's a topic that we need to keep having the conversation, and
okay,
we'll kind of go from there.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right.
Well, then, until next time, my friend.
All right. Until next time.
All right.
We'll see you then.